December 5th. On paper, it's just another date on the calendar. A World Cup draw in Washington, speeches, handshakes, flags, smiles for the cameras. But behind that photo op, there's a private meeting that could decide whether this trade war between Trump and Canada gets de-escalated or detonated. On one side of the table, Donald Trump, the man who slapped 25% tariffs on Canada, called it a security threat, and casually joked about turning it into the 51st state. On the other, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister who says Canada is done deepening its dependence on the United States and is now building pipelines and trade routes that point straight at Asia. Tonight on Huge Press Room, we're breaking down the December 5th showdown. Why this meeting matters way more than the press releases will admit. The three things Carney has to put on the table if he doesn't want to walk out humiliated, and the three traps Trump will try to spring on him. In public and in private, you're watching Huge Press Room. If you want more deep dives into Trump versus Canada, trade wars, and the real power games behind the headlines, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's get into it. Let's be clear about something. Carney is not flying to Washington on December 5th for soccer. The World Cup 2026 draw is just the excuse. The real agenda is simple. Trump wants to prove that his tariffs and pressure are working, and Carney wants to prove that Canada won't be bullied into playing by Trump's rules. Think of the timeline. Trump has declared a national fentanyl emergency and used it to slap blanket tariffs on Canada. Floated the idea of raising those tariffs again by another 10 points after the Reagan ad drama. Talked about Canada like a delinquent state that owes America money, security, and obedience. Or else. Carney, in response, has announced a plan to double non-US exports in 10 years. Backed a controversial pipeline to the Pacific to ship Canadian oil to Asia instead of just the US. Started a quiet industrial policy to protect steel, lumber, and key sectors from Trump's tariffs. By the time we get to December 5th, both men have drawn their lines in the sand. This isn't just a meeting. It's the first time they sit in the same room, face to face, with the entire trade war hanging over the table. So what does Carney have to say in that room if he wants to walk out with his dignity and Canada's leverage intact? Point number 1. Set a red line on tariffs. Carney can't control everything Trump does, but he can make one thing absolutely clear. If you push tariffs any higher, you will not just hurt Canada, you will hurt your own voters, your own factories, and your own refineries, and we will act like a country that's been attacked, not a province begging for mercy. That doesn't mean giving Trump a lecture. It means giving him numbers. Carney needs to walk in with the number of US jobs tied directly to Canadian steel and auto parts, the number of US refineries that depend on Canadian crude, the price increases that American consumers will see if tariffs go from 25% to, say, 45%. Not as a threat, as a fact sheet, because Trump doesn't care about Canada's pain. He cares about his base's pain. If Carney can say, you can hit us harder, but here's a map of the US counties where gas prices will spike, and here are the swing states whose factories will start bleeding jobs, then suddenly tariffs become Trump's political problem, not just Canada's economic problem. The goal is simple. Turn tariffs from a punish Canada move into a hurt your own voters risk in Trump's mind. Point number 2. Make the escape routes real, not theoretical. Trump's greatest weapon is Canada's dependence on the US market. Every time he threatens a new tariff, he's basically saying, you need us more than we need you. Carney has been talking for months about changing that. Pipelines to Asia, new trade deals, doubling non-US exports. December 5th is the day he has to show that this is not a bluff. In that room, Carney needs to quietly slide across the table. The binding agreements, or MOUs, for the Pacific Pipeline, Not just a press release, but real legal commitments from companies and provinces. The trade numbers showing Canada's exports to Asia and Europe already rising while US-bound exports stagnate or fall. The investment deals for factories and plants built to serve non-US markets. Not because Trump will be impressed, he won't, but because Trump needs to understand something. If you keep treating us like an enemy, we won't just complain. We'll rewire our economy so we don't have to care what you do. The US has been used to Canada playing the polite, patient neighbor. December 5th is where Carney has to say, politely but firmly, that Canada is gone. Point number 3. Put the annexation talk in the ground. It's one thing to fight over tariffs. It's another thing when the President of the United States repeatedly jokes, or not really jokes, about turning Canada into the 51st American state. That's not just an insult, it's a threat to sovereignty. In that room, Carney cannot just laugh it off. At some point, he has to look Trump in the eye and say, "We are not your state. We are not your province. We are your neighbor, and your ally as long as you behave like one. But if you keep talking as if you own us, you will push Canadians into believing they can't ever trust you again, no matter who sits in that chair." This isn't a line for the press. It's a line for Trump's ego and for the historical record. Because if Carney walks out of Washington without clearly, explicitly rejecting the 51st state nonsense to Trump's face, that rhetoric will live forever. It will be replayed in every Canadian election, every foreign policy debate, every academic paper about this era. You don't want historians to say the US president floated annexation and Canada shrugged. You want them to say the US president floated annexation and Canada shut the door in his face. December 5th is Carney's chance to do that. Once clearly in person. That's what Carney has to do. But Trump isn't walking into this meeting empty-handed either. He will have his own game plan. Let's talk about the 3 traps he'll set. Trap number 1, the photo op handshake. Trump loves optics. You've seen this before. Smile for the cameras, extra long handshake, a few "my good friend" lines. Then hours later, a tweet or a truth post calling the same person weak, dishonest, or worse. On December 5th, Trump's team will want one thing above all, a photo Carney can't easily walk away from. Smiling, hand on heart, maybe even some line about great friendship or working together. That can be replayed every time Canada complains about tariffs or annexation talk. If Carney isn't careful, he'll walk out of that room thinking he pushed hard, and Trump will walk out with the one thing he really wanted. A picture that makes it look like Canada accepted the new normal. Carney's challenge is to control that photo op. No gushing language, no exaggerated praise. A neutral image. Respectful but cold enough that no one can spin it as all is forgiven. Because in this kind of conflict, images are weapons too. Trap number 2, the fake win. Trump knows Carney needs something to bring back to Canadians, so don't be surprised if the White House leaks talk of reviewing certain tariff rates, exploring exemptions for specific sectors, or considering mechanisms to ease the pain for farmers or automakers. It will sound like progress. It will be designed to sound like a breakthrough, but the details might be empty. On December 5th, Trump's favorite move will be give Carney words and keep the power. Something like, "We'll set up a working group, we'll talk more. Let's see how things go with fentanyl numbers, Mark." That lets Trump say, "Look, I'm being reasonable. I'm offering Canada a way out." Without actually changing the legal structure of the tariffs at all, Carney has to be disciplined enough to know the difference between a real, written, verifiable change in policy and a headline that evaporates the second Air Force One takes off. Trap number 3, divide and blame. Trump knows Carney isn't his only audience. He's also thinking about Canadian conservatives who hate Carney's climate and industrial policies. Canadian premiers who feel ignored by Ottawa, U.S. border state governors who quietly like cheap Canadian imports. So don't be surprised if Trump uses the meeting to do what he always does best: divide. He might say in public, "We'd be happy to lower tariffs if Carney stopped," killing pipelines, hurting Alberta, and pushing his crazy climate agenda. Even if that's not true, it doesn't matter. The point is to turn Canadians against each other. West against Ottawa, conservatives against liberals, exporters against environmentalists. If Carney comes home from December 5th looking like the guy who couldn't get anything done, and Trump comes away looking like the guy who offered relief but Carney wouldn't compromise, then Trump wins the optics war, even if nothing changed on paper. Carney has to anticipate that narrative and have his own ready. A clear, simple explanation to Canadians of what he demanded, what Trump refused, and why Canada can't just roll over for a bad deal. If he doesn't tell that story, Trump will happily tell it for him. So where does that leave us? December 5th is not going to magically end this trade war. No one meeting ever does. But it can do something important. It can reveal whether Trump and Carney are playing the same game or completely different ones. If Trump walks out thinking he still has total leverage, you'll see more threats, more tweets, more 51st state nonsense. If Carney walks out having drawn clear red lines and shown real escape routes, you may see the first tiny cracks in Trump's tariff strategy. Either way, the photo op will be staged, the press releases will be boring, and the real story will happen in that room with no cameras, no live stream, and no polite diplomatic language. Just two very different visions of what the border should look like for the next decade. So I'll leave you with this. On December 5th, do you think Carney should go in as the polite neighbor trying to calm things down, or the cold negotiator who says, "If you keep treating us like a problem, we'll build a future where we don't need you as much as you think we do"? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to catch every piece of this story, check out our other videos here on Huge Press Room. Carney's pipeline revolt, the Reagan ad that made Trump terminate all trade talks. Take-O Trump from best friend to 51st state, 25% tariffs. Is Trump forcing Canada to choose Asia over America? And Lumber, Steel, and Revenge. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of Trump versus Canada. Thanks for watching Huge Press Room. I'll see you in the next one.